All right, Inspire Beauty, happy Monday. It's part 2 of our 3-part series that is all centered around goal setting and just getting ourselves ready for the new year. So last week, we did a look back on where we were this year. You know, all the obstacles we've overcome, victories we've had, and just got really clear on what this year kind of looked like. And today we're going to take our lens more into the present. We're reading as a team right now, team-wide book club is called Your Best Year Ever. If you're not reading that book, that's okay. But if you are reading that book, you might be slightly ahead of the game in terms of maybe focusing on some of the places in your present life that you are thriving in. And maybe some of the places that you're just getting by in, and maybe some of the places that are non-existent, right? Because that can actually be a thing. So one of the first things I want to start with tonight is the life assessment quiz. Now raise your hand if you have taken the life assessment quiz that I shared with Your Best Year Ever. Perfect. Okay. And then I can't really see Kara right now for her answer, but if you haven't taken it, there are 10 areas in the life assessment quiz, and while I'm kind of going through this, if you have yours, you might want to pull out your results if possible. And if you were able to, there was a circle graph, like pie chart that looked like this, that I gave to you guys on Inspire Beauty. If you didn't save that from the team page to your phone, that would be a good time to do that too while I'm kind of explaining. So there's 10 areas to this life assessment quiz: intellectual, marital, vocational, spiritual, emotional, parental, avocational, meaning your hobbies, physical, social, and financial. And when you go through the quiz, there's a series of questions, and you can decide which areas to apply and which ones aren't applicable. For me, for example, parental just isn't it's not my chart. It's not an area of life right now to assess because I am not a parent. So that one it's not even being assessed. Okay, but for the other 9 areas, I go through and it gives me examples of, of different levels to select in that area. And then based on what it's sharing with me, I select where I currently am in my life. Now, disclaimer, if you took this quiz and you weren't in a good headspace that day, like maybe you're just having a rough day, you were tired, whatever it is, I encourage you to go back and retake the quiz, because I actually did it twice. I did it one time when I was not in a good headspace or in the best, and then I did it a second time when I was in a much better space, much clearer. And so I obviously scored higher. And it's not about scoring higher or anything like that, but you want to be most honest with yourself. And sometimes, I don't know if you're like me, but when I get into a negative headspace, I like to beat myself up. So I like to tear down the areas. And so then maybe I'm not giving myself a fair assessment. So try to be in a really peak space when you go to take it. But the idea, you guys, is that real life is multifaceted. So tonight, yes, it is a team training. Yes, we are Beachbody coaches. Yes, some of us work the business on a variety of different levels, and our involvement with Beachbody products in the business is different across the board, but real life is multifaceted. So yes, we will talk about Beachbody and we'll talk about coaching and whatnot as it applies to tonight and as it applies, I believe, into 2020 for you. But I also speak from deep experience that Beachbody can't be the only facet, right? And any of these categories can't be the only thing. And I think we see this as women a lot when we're reaching out and we're talking. I don't know if you guys do, but I talk to a lot of moms when I'm reaching out to new people and engaging in conversations. And these moms will tell me the same thing, that their life was hijacked by their kids, that they don't have a life anymore, and that they stopped working out, they stopped caring for themselves, they stopped having a social life, they stopped worrying about how their marriage was doing because it was all about the kids. And so their life became really, really heavy in the parental category, and then everything else suffered. And the reality is and we're going to get to this in a little bit, but we're going to talk about the balance of it all, because I know balance is not really a thing, but ultimately when we're working on trying to have balance, we're trying to balance the fact that we prioritize all areas of life. We don't just prioritize our health and wellness at the expense of our marriage, or prioritize our social well-being at the expense of our spiritual well-being, right? So when you look at that life assessment, and I asked you to save this to your phone, or if you can print, it's a lot more powerful when you can really color in. But the idea is to take each one of those pieces of pie. If you had a circle, and each piece of that circle is one of those categories. So for example, for my intellectual, I scored a 10 in that area. So what I would do is I would take, my marker, and I would color all the way up to 10 for intellectual. But then when I go to something like maybe my emotional, it's only a 7. So I'd only color up to a 7. And the idea is, and you can probably see that because let me pull up my assessment for you guys really quick. They actually do this for you on here, and you can see what your pie looks like. Guys, I want you to imagine this, if you're looking, hopefully you're looking at this, I want you to imagine this as a wheel on a car. Would that help the car go around really effectively if this was one of all 4 of my wheels? No. And so the idea is balance. The idea is not necessarily to bring everything up to an 11 or everything up to, no, it's about balance. And so I was actually sharing with somebody earlier today because they were very concerned. They got, a 5, they scored a 5, I think, maybe in their marriage and in their job, they were kind of on the low side too. And then they're struggling with their kids and they're just struggling in those areas. But I said, that's not actually what I'm concerned about. What I'm concerned about is the areas that are non-existent. That got a 0. That you didn't even score. And truthfully, the only 2 you could take off of your list due to life circumstances is marital and parental. And if you took vocational off, that probably means you got laid off from your job or you're out of work. And so maybe in some situations you'd take off vocational if that happened, right? But the idea is every other category should be on there. So if you didn't even answer questions for spirituality, or you didn't even answer questions for your finances because you just don't have anything going on in that category, that to me is more of an issue than you scoring a 6 with your husband and a 4 with your kids, right? Because at least that shows you're trying something in that area. And so my heart is, after you've taken that quiz, and it appears that the majority of you have, is that in the present, we look at those numbers and we pat ourselves on the back for where we're like really thriving. But it can be really easy next week when we start to dive into goal setting to look at those numbers and to want to goal set the areas where we feel comfortable because we're doing well, right? Like it's really easy for me to goal set for my physical health because that comes naturally to me right now. And so I don't feel this idea that, and we've talked about these unmet expectations and this idea of perfectionism. I don't feel worried about that in that area, right? So I'll goal set all day, every day that you want me to tell you what's my next program. I'll tell you what it's going to be, right? And I'll tell you what I'll work on in my fitness. But when I look at where I should actually be goal setting, I got to look at my lowest numbers. And so on our team page, we had shared, and you guys can open up the chat tonight. If you have these out in front of you, I'll open up the chat too. If you guys have these out in front of you, you can share what are your 3 areas that got your lowest scores. Perfect. We're seeing jobs, we're seeing finances on the board, a lot of recurring themes with that. We're seeing emotional, hobbies, social life. Perfect. Yeah, and you can keep those coming. So it can be an easy tendency for us when we go to dream big and when we go to like look at our vision board for the next year. I want to nudge you guys not to just dream in the categories where you feel like you got it going on, because your tire is going to be out of balance. And when your tire's out of balance, you're out of balance. And everything else in your life will only elevate when you elevate things that are not currently serving you, right? And so if you haven't dove into, and when we talk about like, when we look at categories like spirituality, you guys, that's just like looking at something that's bigger than yourself, right? So I'm not like putting you in a box or a bubble of what you have to believe, but man, like at some point in your adult life, I hope, especially being a part of this team, that you're nudged to dig into that a little bit. What makes you afraid of even looking at spirituality? What's offended you about it in the past? And really deep dive into where you're at with those sorts of walks. Why is financial, why is that at the bottom for a lot of us? Why are our finances out of whack? Does the world teach us to be like that? Is it because we're living in such a consumer society, right? And to really look, when I buy things, oh gosh, I got to get you guys the title of the book I read. And it had me look at things a lot different. I'll have to get you the title later. I can't remember off the top of my head, but when I look at something and I'm in the store, I like to carry it around with me for a while because I want to decide if I really need it or if I just really want it, right? And if a lot of times if it's something that I just really, really want, or I only wanted it because so-and-so, shared that she had it on social media, or so-and-so was wearing it, so I wanted to buy it too. I have to kind of like second, gut check myself, because that digs into finances, right? That digs into my financial security and well-being. And so looking at those areas where you feel like you're lower in, I encourage you to goal set. I'll share with you guys one goal that I already started to craft up, because it's a problem for me that my avocational life, my hobbies, have gotten to be such a low point in my life that I don't feel like I have like things that I do for fun. And it might look like I do things for fun, but I think when I put it all in one basket, it's like, no, I don't have these things that like just I can unplug. I don't have to like be on a show for. I don't have to like advertise for my next group for, or I don't have to, it's nothing. It's just me having fun. And so actually I made Charlie go with me yesterday. We went to Michael's, and I own knitting needles, and I used to love knitting, and I haven't knit in a long time. And so I went and I bought yarn, and I got my needles out and everything, and I started knitting last night. I was like rocking on the couch. I wish I had it right here. I'd show you guys. It's so dinky. It's like that much so far that I got done. But like, it was so rewarding. I sat there. He was like, it's like 9 p.m. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so late. But I just got in the zone of knitting, and like, those are the kinds of things that will elevate me in every other area of life. If I can get back like that side of Brittany that just zones out and has a hobby, then Brittany can be better in her, emotional well-being. I can be a better spouse. I can be better intellectually. I can be better for you guys on our team and with my job and everything, right? And so keeping that in mind, next week when we really, because you're going to have a gap between now and next week. And in the meantime, I really want to encourage you guys, like, think about where you are wanting to goal set for the coming year, because it can be really easy to be like, I'm just going to hit Success Club in January. And that's missing the point, I think, right? I think that's missing the point of all this, because that's just a part of your goal setting. And if that's like the do all end all, when that doesn't happen, like what do we do, right? And so I want to make sure that we're whole beings. Okay, so cool. We've got our wheels for our life assessment. And again, if you haven't taken that, please, please, please take a second. We're going to do a coach wheel. How about that? Yeah, let's do a coach wheel. And you're not going to, if you have the wheel, you can color it in, you can like figure out your wobbles and all that stuff later. But for right now, we're just going to do it on a scale of 1 to 10. So you can either keep it on a notepad on your phone or jot it down if you have pen and paper right now. But I'm going to give you categories that are part of coaching, okay? And one would be that you're really, really struggling in this area. Like, Britt, I'm hardcore struggling. If you were to not even answer a number, that means it's a non-existent part of your journey. And so just like when we were talking about the life assessment, if there were areas that were NAs, aside from like, you can't worry about being married if you're not actually married, or being a parent if you're not a parent yet, right? Like, I give a free pass on those. But for these, if there's an NA, it's not even applicable, it's not existent, then those should be areas that we want to try to make existent in the coming year, right? And figure out why they're not right now. So 1 would be really struggling. If you don't even answer, it's non-existent. And 10 would be that you are crushing it, okay? So I picked 10 areas for this coach wheel. So first one is your fitness. The next one is your nutrition. The next one is your personal and professional growth. So that includes anything that has to do with growing as a coach with Beachbody, but also growing you as a human being, personal and professional. I just categorize into one. Getting on trainings like this is part of that, FYI. National Wake Up Calls, part of that. Book club, part of that. Okay, next one. Okay, next one would be your contribution to the team. How do you contribute? And when I say to the team, I mean two spaces. The team page, how do you contribute to the team page? How do you contribute to whatever challenge group community you're part of, right? So your contribution there. Okay, next, your consistency. And I'm making consistency a very wide open net. Consistency kind of encompasses all of it. All right, next one, social media. What would you give yourself? Score 1 to 10 on social media. Attending live events and attending weekly events. Attending any sort of event, like a team call, Super Saturday, summit, leadership events, things like that. Attending events, getting in community live with your team. Okay, next one, income producing activities. Scale 1 to 10, your income producing activities. What are those? Inviting people, following up. Meaning you're in someone's inbox on the regular. Inviting and following up are your income producing activities. Okay, next one. Helping others start their journey or begin their business. So I'm not going to say Success Club. I'm not going to say Emerald. I'm not going to say anything like that. I just want to know on a scale of 1 to 10, where do you feel like you are in terms of helping others start, whether it's starting on their fitness or starting in their business? And the last one that I picked was your focus. And what I mean by your focus is when you sit down to work, when you open your cell phone up, do you scroll? Do you spend time wasting looking at other people's lives and liking top coaches' behaviors? Or are you focused on, when I open my phone, it's time to send these messages, it's time to, like on a scale 1 to 10, you're focused when you're actually in it. And if your focus is all over the place, then that's a good number. But if you don't even sit down to open your phone, then that would be a non-applicable, right? Cool. And then, so same thing, guys, same thing as before. You look at this. If this was a wheel, is your wheel going to get you where you want to go? Or is it going to be a real bumpy ride? Right? And when you look at this, as we prep for next week, what areas are you crushing it that you pretty much just need to allow yourself to maintain that, enjoy it, have fun with it, right? There are probably areas, like right now in the chat, guys, share with me, what area are you crushing it right now that you know going into 2020, you can just ride that gravy train and enjoy the momentum of that without having to really think. And I guarantee I know what everybody's going to be saying. Yes, the fitness, Olivia, for sure. Personal, professional growth. Love that, Katie. Yes, you've been on a wild ride train with that. I'm loving seeing your growth. For me, I'm tied on a couple things, fitness, live events, and contributing to the team. Personal growth and fitness, personal professional growth. Yes, good. So these are really great things, you guys. And this is awesome too, because when you look ahead at the year, what 2 areas are you already crushing it? Your mindset and your health. Your mindset and your health. What do people need to kickstart 2020? Their mindset and their health. Their mindset and their health. And you already have a leg up on that. So there's no reason that the rest of these, you can't easily help somebody. You could help somebody. You could sit down and be focused. You could have a bigger, better presence on social media. There we go, income producing activities, because you have those things. Now you're able to invite more people and follow up and really be focused on that. You'll be more consistent because you're going to be on this energetic high. You're going to want to contribute to our team more. You're going to have personal experiences where you're going to be able to go to the team page and say something like, hey, I had this conversation today. Can somebody help me navigate it? Or, hey, this is how I handled this conversation today. Not sure if anybody needs this, but this is what I said. And then I think I handled it really well. You'd be able to level up in all those other areas. So I love that the baseline, your mindset and your self-care, they're set. You guys spent 2019 laying a firm foundation of that. That's amazing. And now in 2020, you can help someone else lay that firm foundation because you're already a step ahead of them. It's like in teaching, right? As long as I stay like a lesson ahead of the students, I'm good, right? Like when I had to teach long division again, you guys, I hadn't taught long division since I learned long division, to be quite frank, right? And when I had to teach that to my 5th graders, I was like, I just have to stay one lesson ahead of them. Because at this point, the math was like all new math and like whatever, and it wasn't the way I learned it. So I literally had to just do the lesson that day that they were going to do tomorrow so that I could have it fresh in my head and be able to teach it to them. And that's sometimes what it is in this business, right? Sometimes we think, oh, I have to have it all figured out. I have to have a perfect 10 in every category, and then I'll be able to coach others. You guys, if I can be completely honest with you guys, I don't have a current 10 in every category. And I'm certainly trying my best to lead you guys. My focus stinks right now. Helping others get started in their business and on their journey stinks right now. I have growth. I have room for growth in those areas. And I won't be ashamed to admit it to you guys. Because when you know where you need to grow, you know where you can put your focus. Okay, cool. Let's talk something else. And maybe these might spark something. You might want to jot some of these down. I was just kind of spitting out some things today that I just wanted to share with you guys as we're kind of in the present. We already know what this year looked like for ourselves. We pat ourselves on the back. We cried a couple of tears. We know on that wheel what it looks like, what areas we're rocking, where we need maybe some assistance. But let's talk about what's getting in your way. Because these are things in my journey that often get in my way, and I have to like peel the layers back on how to not let them get in my way over and over and over again. It's almost like I learned the same lesson, but at like a new level, right? One thing that's gotten in my way in my journey before is comparison. So if you feel like there's areas that are deficits right now in your life assessment or in your coaching assessment, maybe, just maybe, comparison might be the thing that's getting in your way. The next thing I wrote down that I feel like gets in our way a lot as coaches is this idea of instant gratification, this mentality that everything should be like Amazon Prime. I ordered, it's at my doorstep, right? And truthfully, our world is getting so out of control in that arena with that mentality. It's only going to get worse and worse and worse because everything is faster and faster and faster. And while that is so amazing in certain regards, there's certain spaces in my life that I'm so grateful for that. But in this business, it will be an enemy that will take you down if you believe that you should be instantly rewarded for your work. Who did a power hour today, sent out invites, messaged people, worked their business? Okay. The thing is, the work that Heather did today when she sat down to work her business will not reward her today. It'll reward her in the future. So the work you're doing today, if you think, oh, I sat down, I sent out 100 invites and no one joined my group, that was 100 seeds planted. You guys, when we plant seeds, it's not time to eat the fruit, right? Like we know this, Farming 101, and I even did a call on like farming your business. When we plant something, there is a period of waiting before we can enjoy the harvest. And so this idea of instant gratification will get in your way every time. If you believe that every invite you send out should be a direct sale that goes into your back office that results in a coach enrollment, that results in you being like the next top coach in Beachbody. It doesn't work that way. It's all the little bitty things. And there's a reason why on your coach wheel, I talked about consistency, but I also talked about focus and income producing activities, because those are your secret weapon. Consistency and time, your focus when you're doing it, and making sure that the behaviors you do are actually the right ones to get you there. Because we could be doing a whole lot of stuff all day and it doesn't actually ever get us to where we want to be. Okay, next one I thought of was other people's opinions. Other people's opinions get in our way. My gosh, they do. And you know what's crazy? They're always spectators. They're never in the arena with you. I've never had somebody healthier than me make fun of what I do. Have you ever had somebody healthier than you make fun of you for working out and eating well, caring for your body? Have you ever had somebody who is stronger in their mind? Like, think of the strongest friend you have. They just have such a strong mindset, right? Like, I know for me, my friend Julianne, she's just, her mindset is just solid rock. Like, I want that so bad. I admire her for that. And think of that person. She would never make fun of me for wanting to level my mindset or get on a call like this and be surrounded by other forward thinkers or to dream big. She'd never make fun. If I came to her and I said, oh my gosh, I think this year I could do this, she wouldn't be like, really? You think you could do that? But we all know those people in our life that don't think our dreams are attainable, so they want to squash them right away. The people that are realists, so they tell you every reason why that's never going to work out, right? The eternal pessimists or victims in your life that are always going to try to drag you down. I'm sure you can think of a million of those examples, but the thing is, none of them are doing this. Not a single person judging you for sending out invites spent today sending out invites. Not a single person judging you for your business and your dreams in this business and your goals, however lofty, has ever achieved the goals you're trying to hit. So remember that. When other people's opinions try to squash you, they're not in the arena. And this is why getting on Zooms is so powerful, because you finally get to be in the arena. It's like a breath of fresh air for me, honestly, because I finally get to be in the arena with other people who would never judge me for the things that maybe the majority of other people in my life would, right? Next thing, allowing failure to define your future. That'll get in your way. Allowing failure to define your future. Failure is inevitable. It's funny. I've been wrestling with something with Charlie not recently, pretty much all year long. And I feel bad because I feel like it's like, do you ever feel like you're having the same frustrating conversation with somebody? And it's not about him. I feel like I'm bringing the same frustration to him every day. And so I feel bad because at some point he's probably like, can you just get over the stupid frustration that you have, Ruth? And so, he was sharing with me the other day, he said something about me not being a failure. And I said, I don't think I'm a failure. I'm just frustrated. And that's what I don't look at myself. I used to really hardcore, you guys. If I messed up, I was a failure. I labeled myself as a failure. I didn't say I failed at that. It was I'm a failure. And that's very different. Those are two very different schools of thought. And if you're reading our book with us, they talked about that today. That it's two very different schools of thought. So one say you're a failure versus I failed at that. And I think sometimes we tend to gravitate more towards labeling ourselves as a whole as a failure. And I'm finally in a place where I don't believe that I'm a failure and I embrace failed attempts, but I'm just frustrated, right? Like you just sometimes hit a wall and I'm like, I'm just frustrated. That's all. It's not that I think I'm a failure. I'm just frustrated. But the frustration makes me curious. The frustration makes me problem solve. The frustration makes me want to do better. And so I try again. But failure defining your future, it'll always stand in your way. If you allow a failure, nobody joined that challenge group of mine. Newsflash, my first year in the business, no one joined a stinking group of mine either. Join the club. I had to fail through that. I had to figure out, I had to get frustrated enough to figure out a better way for myself. Or to maybe level up my behaviors, because quite honestly, I was just kind of hiding behind social media posts and that wasn't helping me to advance and grow my groups, right? And that's what I really wanted to do. Fun fact, when I was in the classroom, I just thought of this. I taught the last stint of my teaching career, I taught gifted education. And so I had to we had paperwork that we had to always fill out for them. And I had to set goals for them. And it's sometimes harder to set goals, I think, for somebody who's like super advanced because, like you don't want to cap their limit, but you also don't want to frustrate them with setting a bar maybe way too high for a child of that age. But we had to do paperwork for them. And there was a gifted goal that I had to set across the board for my students that had nothing to do with academics, but just had to do with the fact that they were a gifted student in my classroom. And the goal I set for everyone was creativity. And I would have to explain this to parents every time I sat in a brand new conference when I went over their initial paperwork and explained that I set this goal for them for creativity. And the parents always say, oh, my child's not creative though. Or, oh my gosh, they're creative, but I'm not creative. Like, I don't know how to help them. And I would always just sit there and remind the parents that creativity isn't arts and crafts. Creativity isn't crayons and colored pencils. Creativity is problem solving. And so that's what I taught my students. I taught them how to be problem solvers. If there's one thing I could teach those stinking kids, forget math, like that, I forgot long division, and I'm an adult, I'm good, right? Like that 5th grade long division I taught you, boo-boo, like you're gonna forget it, it's all good. You're not gonna need that at gunpoint. You know what you are gonna need at gunpoint? You're gonna need problem solving. You need problem solving skills, right? And so that's what creativity meant to me. And so we worked on solving problems. And I think that that's one of the things when I watch a coach hit a wall and inevitably give up, they allow failure to define their future. The one quality they're missing is the ability to solve problems, because it's all out there. It's all figure outable, right? We've learned that this year in book club. Okay, next one. Collecting info, being an information hoarder without action. Ooh, that'll get in your way every time. Collecting information or being an information hoarder without action. Meaning, I love seeing your faces every Monday. I love when you guys comment on the National Wake Up Calls. Like, it really, I don't think you guys know how much like I love seeing our screen filled up with your faces, how much I love seeing my notifications go off that you're in our team page. Like on the days where it's just silent, I'm like, where's everybody, right? Like it bums me out. I love seeing you guys interacting, growing, learning. But I hate when I see us growing and interacting and learning, but yet not advancing forward, because what that leads me to believe is we're just collecting a lot of information, hanging on to it real tight, waiting for the perfect moment to use it, and we never do. We never do. One of the really powerful things that Rachel Hollis got to talk about when I was at Rise was her, it was her brother-in-law, but she and her sister and him had been together since she was a kid. So it was like another brother for her. And he passed away like unexpectedly, like 2 weeks prior to that event. So it was still really raw and fresh for her. And she was so adamant at Rise Business not to walk out of here with a dream on your heart that you never go and do anything with. Because her brother had a lot of dreams on his heart, a lot of things he was gonna go do. And then he laid down on the couch one day and didn't wake up, right? And it's not to be morbid or anything like that. It's just to share that life is precious. And sometimes when we're in it, it doesn't feel that way. It just feels like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? Or let me just go through the routine behavior of the day. The truth is, you only get one of them. You don't get a do-over, guys. You don't get a do-over. You get one while you're here, and you make the best of it. Next one. Your limiting beliefs and excuses will get in your way. And if you don't know about limiting beliefs, if limiting beliefs for you right now, if you're like, well, I don't know what my limiting beliefs are, the chapter, I think it's chapter 4 that we just read, really nailed it and gave some really great examples of what a limiting belief would look like versus how to use a growth mentality when talking about them. Most of you guys have read this, but I do want to find it. Did anybody think of or come up with limiting beliefs that they were like, oh wow, I didn't really realize I thought of things like that, or I was constantly saying that? You can share it in the chat. Anything that you realize, wow, I say that a lot and it's been holding me back. It was the idea, there was a chart that talked about, my glare, you can't really see. But the chart talked about scarcity thinkers, and on the other side, it was abundance thinkers. And a scarcity thinker believe there will never be enough. Guys, I used to be the type of person that, like, if I was at Success Club 6 on the 30th and somebody's like, I want to buy my pack, I'd be like, okay, well, wait till tomorrow and I'll sign you up. Because I was like, let me, I want to make sure I have at least like this one challenge pack for the next month. So I wouldn't go to SC8. I'd stay at SC6 because that was safe, because I was scarce about it all, because I didn't believe there'd be enough people next month. So then the following month, I'd at least have that one person to start the month off strong. That was scarcity mindset, believing that there's not enough people in this world to help. There are plenty of people in this world to help. Resenting competition, believing it makes the pie smaller. So like, if so-and-so goes diamond, there's less of a chance for me. No, rather than welcoming it, believing that if that person can do it, so can I, right? So different types of thinking, and definitely reviewing that chapter if you are not sure on what limiting beliefs or excuses are maybe holding you back. Okay, next one and last one is analysis paralysis. And I kind of talked about this with the collecting info without action, right? But allowing yourself to get into this place of analyzing, thinking so much that you become paralyzed, analysis paralysis, you become paralyzed to any action that'll move you forward, right? And that's that idea of like maybe perfectionism kind of falls into that too. So essentially, what is getting in your way, you guys? Well, I got good news. It's you. And it's me. I'm getting my own way. Heather's getting in her own way. Kara's in her own way. Amanda's in her own way. We're all in our own way. It's essentially, it's us, right? And so the cool thing is, because it's us, we can do something about it, right? And so all of these, I hope that when you did the life assessment, I hope just now with the coaching assessment too, and looking at those wheels and seeing where we are, maybe a little off balance or off kilter, that it's not something that makes us just beat ourselves up, but we can actually look at it and say, wow, I have the power now to do something about it. At the beginning of the book, if you've been reading with us, he shared a story about a runner named Heather Kampf who fell, and her story about getting back up. And I found it on YouTube, and I wanted to share that with you guys real quick. Can you see it over here? Yeah? Okay, I want to make sure my volume is, if it's too loud, like somebody give me a wave, like, Brittany, you're blowing us out, okay? So I had to find that video clip because, and anytime something gets referenced, by the way, I hope this also shows you problem solving skills. Anytime something's referenced in a book, you better believe I'm always like Google searching it because I want to see it for myself. I did that too with, what was the book? Wolfpack that we read, or that I read. She referenced another commencement speech that I was like, I gotta see that. And so guys, anytime you see something, like allow that book to create something like beyond just the experience in that chapter too, especially because these are so short. But I went and I found that, I know it says a different last name. I think she has a married name or whatever now, but that truly is legit to the story. The coolest thing about her falling that I didn't get out of the book was that she had one lap left. Like, she'd already done 2, and there was only one. Like, there was no hope, you guys, when she fell. She was like, that's it. They had one more lap to go, and she had to not only get up off the ground, faceplant style, right? Like, she's probably a little injured, not gonna lie, but she had to get up, and she not only had to get up, but she had to catch up to them. Not only had to catch up, but that she passed them and won, right? But the thing is, what I think about is I'm like, she knows how to run. She knows how, think about it, she knows how to run. So when she fell down, what was her instinct? Get up and run. And the only way you could figure that out is if she's fallen before, if she's tripped before, if she's failed before, if she's not gotten the gold before. And like, think about how that moment had to have come together. She knows how to run. So what do you know how to do? You've already unveiled it tonight in what you wrote down. In your coaching and in your life, there are things you know how to do. So when you fall, cling to those things. When you fall because somebody told you no, and so you lost your focus in the business, or you're having a hard time, you know, with your consistency, fall back on the fact that you know how to work out every day and you know how to show up on social media because you already were strong at that in 2019. Today, you're sitting here strong at that. When you fall down, do what you know how to do, right? Things that helped me when I stand in the face of failures, missteps, frustrations, unmet expectations, all the things. And this is what I'll wrap up with tonight. Some things that help me: gratitude. The more I celebrate other people and the more I get excited about what they're doing, the more I get out of my funk quicker. The more I stop feeling sorry for myself. In fact, when I started this business, I was feeling very sorry for myself, and the way that I got out of it was by helping other people. This business, I have said it a lot of times, has saved my life because it's shifted my mindset. And in a time in my life when my mindset wasn't so hot, that's when I joined this business. My mindset was not so hot. And every day I didn't know what to do, so I would just post a Pinterest picture of some sort of motivation because that's all I could think of, because I had nothing. I wasn't motivational. I wasn't inspiring. I wasn't a decent human being. I truly wasn't. I was very mean to a lot of people. And the more I focused on lifting others up, though, and being grateful for what I already had, it helped me. When I feel stuck, when things are getting in my way, when I face missteps, the next thing is action. Action always helps me. So even if it's just a little bit, sometimes we think action has to be like monumental, but sometimes just sending out the first 3 invites gets me and my mind in a role that I can do this. Because I face times in my business where I second guess if I can. And so just by sending out those first 3 and just getting it over with, ripping that Band-Aid, making the social media post, taking action on something, right? It just helps. Leaning on my support system, getting on these calls on a weekly basis, talking to people who can help me get out of my funks, leaning on my mentors, that helps me. And looking back on my blessings, I love to look back. I love to like, oh, what was my business like a year ago? What was my business like 2 years ago? I love to go back in time. I love to go back in my back office and look at how it's grown as well in terms of our team, in terms of my finances, in terms of my impact, all of it. But what that allows me to do too, when I'm in funks or when I'm in moments where I feel frustrated or like I'm just not where I'm supposed to be, it allows me, when I look back at my blessings, to look forward with expectancy. And that's really helpful. And the other thing, this is really practical, is that I like to schedule in advance. So last little plug I'll give you, because we are nearing a new year, I just got a new planner. And I've tried every planner out there, you guys, truthfully. So if you have questions on planners, like what I have and have not liked about certain ones, if you have ones that you're looking at, I'd be more than happy to answer them for you if you bring them to me. But this planner I got this year is the Start Planner, and I got one that was a weekly. I like paper and pencil, but I got one that has a weekly layout this year like this with the times. I love when it has times, so that was important to me. But I love vertical because my eyes see vertically, not horizontally, so that's also important to me. And I've learned that over the years. I've purchased. Oh my gosh, who am I right now? I've bought. I've bought in the past planners that are horizontal and realized that that didn't work for me, right? And so it's been through trial and error, and I've tried and had error with quite a few of them. But get a planner so you can start scheduling things out, right? Starting with, you know, what is your year at a glance going to look like? What are some key things happening in 2020 that you're looking forward to? Get those in your planner. Then start planning out your challenge groups and things that you're getting excited about that you can share about, and start planning out. And then when you look at a week by week basis, you can really look at, you know, weekly what you're planning out so that your priorities are there. Because otherwise, you'll get to the end of 2020 after we do this whole 3-part series, and you'll do your goal setting and vision casting next week. And then a year later, you'll get to the end of 2020. You'll say, wait a second, all my numbers are the same. Nothing shifted. Why? What's the deal? And it'll be that your priorities weren't in line, that you allowed things that weren't your priorities to overtake it all, right? Other people's agendas definitely is one that often sabotages us in our tracks, right? When someone wants you to do something or go somewhere or whatever, that can oftentimes sabotage our growth. So priorities, one of the big reasons I plan on a week-to-week basis is because I got to make sure my priorities are intact, that I always have a date night planned every week with my husband, because that's so important to me, that I have unplugged time with my family when he gets home from work, that I know what dinners I'm making so that we can sit together as a family. Because if you're not noticing a trend, that's my priority, right? And then my business is a priority. So making sure that I know what's going on each week so that my business doesn't fall to the wayside, even though life is still happening, right? So that's all I got for tonight. Let me scroll down and stop recording.